Thank you, Jay.
Excellent.
So we'll just talk a little bit about what had happened on January 6th, kind of what was going through your mind. When did you know that things were escalating past, what you had gone there for? And then just kind of the aftermath, like you were talking, what was court like going over your phone, and then just how you've been feeling in the last couple of days with the news of the pardon, and just how we kind of move forward and everything.
Sure. At the time when that Stop the Steal rally, when it was happening, I wouldn't have called myself a huge Trumper. I think at that point I voted for him. I was like, okay, he's, other than he was, other than President Trump was, he said some things I didn't care for, the way he said them, maybe, the whole mob boss, the country, I know I was paying less for gas. I was working good. It was, things were running well. So, I voted for him. My friend, I've got a few friends that are huge Trump supporters, huge. And they go to all the rallies. They do all the Trump things, the parades. And he had this group he was in had chartered 2 buses to go to D.C. And he was wanting me to go really bad. He's like, come on, you're going with me. And at the time I was laid off. And I was like, man, why not? I love D.C. I've been to D.C. and I do think, D.C. is a great town. I enjoy going to the Smithsonian's and the exhibits and museums. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go, I'll go. Why not, And he ended up not going, because of COVID, like you were saying. Because of COVID, they told him, well, if you go, you can't work for 10 days, and 10 days without pay. I don't know. I know I can't do that. But I went anyway. It's like, man, I'm gonna go. Part of it was at the time. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you do. It was a lot of Facebook was the only social media that I had. And there was a lot of what do you want to call it? Memes, rhetoric, guys with flax and Kevlars, and there's a storm coming, and I'm like, huh, I'm a Marine. I'm a Marine. I was a Navy guy. I'm a Marine, and part of me was like, I wonder if these guys gonna try some crap, or are they gonna, is this a costume party? So I wanted to see for my own eyes. So we went out, and it was good. Up to that point, it was great. It was really festive. A lot going on around the streets. Everything was closed. So the only thing you could eat were food trucks and food carts along the roads that would have these humongous lines. It just seemed a mile long. So I took a group. There was a part of this buses that I went out with. There was a group of older, probably 70s, older people that they felt better. They wanted me to go with them to take them down to Union Station where there was some stuff to eat. So we went down there. And that's where I heard, on the TV, and everybody was talking, there's something going on at the Capitol. There's people, and I was, that's why I went to the Capitol, because I took off from there. I was like, I got to see, good, right, wrong, or indifferent. If stuff like that's happening, I got to go see. I have to, So I ran down there and saw one crowd was at a wall, and there was people climbing this wall and falling off, and another, that's another me thing is I can climb that wall. I can. Should I? I don't know. Of course, halfway up the wall, it's like maybe I shouldn't have done this, right? But at the time, I'm thinking, I could do that. I'm older, but I can manage that. I'm a Marine, right? So I climbed the wall, and I get up to the top, and to this day I can tell you they call it outside of the rotunda. I think couldn't even tell you where it really was. But it was an open area. It wasn't in the building. There was a broken out window, and there was some guys that were coming out and then going in and coming out and going in. And I thought, all right, why not? So I climb in, and really didn't see much. At where I was, it wasn't as action packed as some other places. I started taking pictures and sending some video back to friends. Like, hey, or put some on Facebook, which is what got me in trouble because I wanted. More than anything, I wanted people to see, hey, this is what's going on in our Capitol right now. Look at this crap, and where I wasn't near as bad as some other places. So when I heard gunshots, I can discern, I could hear there was some tear gas going off, and I could hear the thump thump. And when I heard gunshots, is about the time I said, okay, it's time for me to hightail it. I'm not, not prepared to get shot over this. So I hightailed it back out, and that I think I was in the Capitol somewhere between 9 and 17 minutes, depending on who you ask. I mean, the government was amazing as far as how they had video, my video. They had other videos that showed, look, there I am over there and this, and showing me crawl out, in and out of the same spot. And it was kind of amazing that they were able to get all that and discern, okay, you were there for this long, So the most I could have been in there was 17 minutes. The least was probably 9. But and then we left and came home, and it was odd from there too. I got home, and of course, I think it was a day or two later, somebody says, hey, there's billboards up. They're looking for you. They're looking for all you guys. There's billboards up all over the city. You got to. And I was like, what? Oh my God. I didn't realize it. I guess I didn't realize it was going to be as big as it was. And the FBI ended up, one of my friends, it was one of my roommates when I was in the Marine Corps. I think he took and there was a hotline at some point. He took and he said, hey, got my stuff and turned me in. I wish he would have told me. If he would have got a reward, I probably would have split it with him. But unfortunately, I've had no contact with Clark. Anyway, the FBI got a hold of a friend of mine, and then friend got a hold of me. I got a hold of them, and it went from there. I was, I wasn't going to try to go on the run or a lamb or anything. So they interviewed me, and then probably, I don't know, it might have been 4 or 5 months later is when they contacted me. Said, hey, you are going to. You're going to be charged with this, and we're going to have to arrest you. Is there a good time to meet up with you? And I said, sure, meet me tomorrow morning. It's this church, quiet. And they arrested me and took me downtown. And from that point, it was all Zoom. It was all court. I signed a lawyer from D.C. Christopher Davis was his name, and I think he was great. He was a fabulous lawyer. Really supportive. And then everything from that, like I say, everything. I never actually met him in person. We had Zoom calls and went to court several times on Zoom. Like you and I are sitting here now. I'd have the phone, and like I was telling you, I got, hey boss, I got to go to the restroom and go to court real quick. Let me take care of this, please. And so, and then that was about it. Sorry, I keep running on and on.
No, that's perfectly fine. So, why did you go to DC? Can you kind of walk me back through that again with your friend? And
I wanted to go to DC. I wanted to go to the city of DC. As far as the rally, I'm not typically into that sort of thing. I'm not a big crowd guy. I'm not one of those. As far as being a Trumper, I am now. I'm completely a Trumper now. I mean, at that point when that happened, I felt like I became Trumper #1 in Kansas City. Right? I'm that guy. And at this point, I own it. I do feel like he was the right choice for the president for this country right now. I think the way they attacked him, so he's, and the way my mind thinks about that is, he's done something to upset the apple cart. He's dumped the apple cart over, because otherwise, why would a non-president be in the news every single day? We're going to throw him in jail. We're going to impeach him. We're going to try to kill him. Whatever this takes to, and I was like, something in my mind, something about that. And then the fact he's rich, you can't buy him. To me, one of the worst things politically in the country we have ever done was when the Supreme Court said, hey, unlimited campaign contributions, you could just give as much as you want to, so all of a sudden we have, multi-millionaire politicians that are, to me, bought and paid for. And I do like the fact that you can't buy him. He's got his own money. He doesn't need to, So I am a Trumper now. Then I wasn't. Then I just wanted to go to D.C., get out of town. I was laid off. I was like, He paid for the bus ticket. So my buddy John, he paid for the bus ticket. I was like, man, I'm just going to go to D.C. I'm going to get out of town. And that was my whole thinking. That and to see what these guys, that have all the flak and the Kevlar and the battle gear, what are you going to do? What are you really going to do here, So, that's why I went,
So it wasn't your goal to go to the rally that President Trump was having. Were you ever going to attend the rally?
It was when I got there, it was almost one big rally. It was huge. There were so many people. But no, I never watched. I wasn't going to stand and watch anybody speak or any of that. What I really wanted to do, which I couldn't do because of COVID. I should have known this. Everything was closed, right? I wanted to go see the. I've been to a couple of the Smithsonian buildings. I wanted to go see another one. I wanted to go back to the Vietnam Wall Memorial. I wanted to see some of the things that I didn't see the last time I was in D.C. That's why I wanted to go. I like DC. Hopefully now that I'm pardoned, I want to go back. I mean, I enjoy it. I can go back now. So that's why I went to DC that day.
So when you saw some things that were happening,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm assuming on the news, or you saw it on social media when you were at Union Station.
Yes.
Folks get
Yeah, there were people talking about it, and I think there was a little bit on the TV, but mostly was the chatter. Like, there's something big going on down at the Capitol building. And that's when I hightailed it. I was like, hey guys, there was another guy with me. We were kind of watching over some older people. There were fears that, there were fears amongst them that maybe BLM or Antifa, those other extremist groups were going to cause problems with, the Trump supporters. And they wanted us to kind of, which there were no problems. At least we didn't experience any. But they wanted a couple of younger guys, younger being, I would think I was 48, 47 or 48, so we were younger guys there, right? They wanted to go with them to kind of watch over them. And, so that's what we were doing, me and another guy. And the other, I was like, the other guy, everything's fine. Hey, everything's good here. I'm hightailing it out. So I literally ran over there to see what was going on.
When you got there, what was it like?
When I approached the Capitol, from Union Station, the way I took, because I don't know, I didn't have a map or anything. I just basically followed the crowd. I jogged out, ran them. And when I got to the front, there was some of the Capitol security guys, and you could see they were gearing up, but they were still really cool. I mean, there was people, I could have walked right up the steps, the front steps. It was pretty well wide open. There were people that were there that were doing that. They were going upstairs. They were gearing up. It looked like they were getting their gas masks ready. They were getting their mop gear and their Kevlar, their things ready. But they weren't, at least for anybody that was there at that time, it was kind of a scattered crowd. It wasn't much. They weren't trying to no, stop or do any of the other things. And I kind of hear and look, quarter mile, eighth of a mile away and around a corner of the building was where all the ruckus was. So, there's where I'm going to go. You're right. I mean, so I'm going to go see where the ruckus is, and that's how I did it. But like I say, at the time, at the front, there wasn't any lines of policemen or anything like that. The stuff that went on later, or it may have been the same time. Either way, it wasn't going on where I was. The rushing the crowd, the rushing the police, and doing that stuff wasn't happening where I was.
And then you said after you got there, you saw some...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just cheat yourself, just kind of cheat a little bit to your right so we can see the side of your face?
Sure, sorry. So you said you got there, things were kind of scattered a little bit. When did you decide then to go up to the Capitol building? What was that moment like?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say when I decided. Just me being me. I kind of knew that if there's something like that going on, I'm probably going to go up and at least go take a look. So I kind of had an idea. If I can get in here, I'm going to do it. And so when I went down to the area that had the bigger crowd and all that, there was a wall. I think 25 foot maybe. And it was a concrete wall, but it had ridges in it. And people were trying to climb it, and they were all falling off. And like I say, my crazy ass said, I could do it. I could do that, just convinced, I'm a Marine, I could do that, and I'm a chubby guy, I'm not an active duty Marine anymore, but I sure did. I was like, I got to do it, And so I climbed the wall and went up, and that's when there was a crowd already up there. That's when I found out I wouldn't have had to climb that wall. I could have went around the other side and walked up, but there was a crowd there. There were some windows that were already broken out. If I had my phone, I'd show you pictures.
Oh yeah, we can grab it a little
later. I think I have pictures of that. Anyway, there was a crowd there, and there was some windows broken out, and the one I went closest to, there were people coming out of it. There was a policeman there and another guy, and they were actually moving furniture away from that window. There was furniture that was stacked there, and they were moving it away. moving it away. This one guy's like, come on guys, let's go, and all this. I'm like, oh, these guys are getting crazy, right? And there were people in and out. There had been, at some point there had been some tear gas. Yeah, I could smell it, and I could see some of the people that had been hit with it. Yeah, but it was a faint smell. It was almost like it dissipated. So everything kind of slowed down for a second, and that's when I jumped in. I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and take a look. And on one side there was a passageway. There's a big room, and there was a passageway. I call it a passageway. And it had a line of the SWAT guys, the policemen. And on the other side was another passageway. It only had one policeman. So I was like, I wasn't going to try to arrest you. I waved to the cop. I was like, hey man, I'm not here to look around. And there was a crowd in the middle. And, I just kind of hung out there for a minute. One guy had been pepper sprayed. He got sprayed in his face. And I was trying to help him out. There's really not much you can do. You should wash it out, but it's going to burn no matter what. It's peppers, So I was kind of trying to tell him, hey, man, bend over, splash your face with water, but don't think it's just going to be painful for a while. It's non-lethal. You'll survive. I was just trying to help that poor guy out. But at that point, I'm hearing stuff go on. Mostly they're chanting, in the room that everybody's chanting. But where I was not the mess that a lot of people ended up in. So, I do feel blessed for that. Nobody was rushing the SWAT line or trying to bust through or any of that. Later on, I heard gunshots, and that's when I left. That's when I was like, all right, I got time for me to hightail it. So.
That's when you left the Capitol?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
So how long after January 6th happened did you come back then to Kansas City, or did you stay in D.C. for a couple more days after that?
No, that was it. That day, as a matter of fact, that afternoon, when that was still going on, the buses that the group had chartered were leaving. So, whole big thing's going on, and that's one of the reasons why I was like, well, I got to go anyway. The bus is getting ready to head back to Kansas City. So, I don't remember what time that was. I want to say that was before 5 o'clock. Maybe 6. We all. I got back together with the group. We got on a bus and we came back, and it was that night. We just rode through. So I was back before the morning. Somewhere around morning time, we got back to Independence, and I drove home.
When you were driving home, or after you came back to Kansas City, did you think at any point you would be charged for what had happened?
No, not really. I knew that this is big news. This is historic stuff. This is, which is one of the reasons I took pictures and was there. I was like, hey, this doesn't happen every day, But no, I didn't, I didn't think that every person involved was going to be charged and found and manhunted and, and things like that, and I found out pretty quick, because it wasn't long after that when the billboards started popping up that, anybody connected with that riot, you turn them in, and, I think there was a reward. And that's why I was, I want to tell my Marine partner, I want half that money, Clark. Come on, man, fair's fair, But, no, I didn't think it would be the arrests and things. Because a lot of us were like me, honestly. We weren't really, I think most of us know we probably weren't supposed to be in this building. Certainly not supposed to climb through a broken window to take a look. But, at that point, that had already happened, and a lot of us weren't tearing things up. I didn't think I'd be charged.
What was your reaction when you were charged and you found out that your Marine partner, did?
Oh, I was mad. I was mad about that. I was like, "Come on, brother. We were tight at really tight at one time." But it's been years. Life changes, I guess. And I don't know his reasonings for it. Maybe he had a tug of, I don't know. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he's worried about himself getting in trouble. Who knows? I like to believe that his wife or girlfriend probably told him that, yep, you're going to do this. Wielded some power over him. Maybe his financial troubles. But either way, I was upset about that. That bothered me. Being charged, by the time all that happened, I had an idea that, something's, because there were a few people before me that had been arrested. It was huge news. It was all over, I was like, God, it's serious. I mean, the U.S. government is not playing around. So, by the time I learned the FBI knew who I was, they were trying to locate me and talk to me, by that time I kind of, I was prepared for it pretty much at that point. Just knew that You know, at a minimum, I'm going to have to talk to somebody about this, and you know, so you know, so I went with that. I was, you know, relatively compliant with everything. I didn't try to hide. I just, you know, called them up, said, yep, here I am. This me. You know, let's, you know, do what we got to do. You know.
Did you expect the sentencing that you received, you know, 3 years probation and the fines?
The 3 years probation was kind of long. I thought, my God, you know, I mean, because I was restricted to the Kansas City area. Not, you know, not. It could have been worse, I guess. But for what I was charged, I mean, my charge was parading, demonstrating, and picketing in a federal building. You know, so basically a trespassing. You know, you're not supposed to be here, sir. You know, for me, I felt like, you know, 3 years probation was awful long. The other side of it was when I apologize. When I went to court, you know, the prosecutor was asking for, I think, 10 or 14 days in jail, and the judge had said, well, if we put you in jail for 10 to 14 days, then you can't be supervised. You know, I wouldn't have had probation. It would have been ended. It would have, here's my $500 restitution, here's 10 days in jail, and then I'd be done. I'd be free to go, right? And she said, I want this guy under supervision. And I was like, you want me under supervision? Like, I'm an outlaw, right? Like, I'm a criminal. I was kind of ticked about that, but I thought 3 years was awful long. The probation people were really good. Everybody I dealt with was really good. You know, I didn't have any problems with any of the law enforcement or any of that. They were all really, I feel like, really good to me. But just those restrictions of, you know, you can't leave this area, you can't own or have a firearm. I'm a gun guy. I like guns. I like to shoot them. That's enjoyable to me. Can't drink a beer. You know, I'm not a drinker, but I don't want to be told I can't. You know, I mean, so just some of those restrictions were bothersome. You know, so. You know, now that I'm pardoned, you know, I'm going to make my way down. You know, from Truman Lake area. My brother lives in Clinton, so I can finally go to my brother. He's got a gun range on his property, and we're going to go shoot guns. So, you know, I'm happy it's over. I felt like 3 years was an awful long time to be monitored. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When was your probation going to end?
It ended Saturday. 3 years on Saturday. So I've actually, my probation officer just texted me the other day. I was discharged on Saturday. You know, so Saturday my probation ended. So prior to being pardoned, I was already off of probation. So.
Does the pardon change anything after your probation?
My lawyer told me that my conviction, I don't know if it's expunged or erased, but you know, I'm no longer convicted of that crime. You know, since I have a pardon, and it's forgiven. So. I'm not sure exactly what that means yet. I'm sure I'll find out in the next few days. Because that's one of my questions is what is this, you know, I'm the only person I know with a presidential pardon. I'm not going to turn it down. But, you know, as far as, I think it somehow takes it off my record. Either that or it just says, hey, I was convicted of this, but pardoned for it. You know, some sort of thing like that. So maybe the you know, the stigma of it, maybe. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll take that.
When you heard the news that President Trump was going to be pardoning, you know, 1,500 people, mm-hmm. What was your reaction, knowing that your probation had already ended?
I was happy. You know, I was really glad about it. I mean, he had said he was going to do that, and I wondered, you know, but President Trump, you know, was another reason I'm a Trumper now. You know, when he says he's going to do something, almost always he does it. You know, so I was extremely happy, especially for some of us that. You know, probably didn't really deserve, you know, not that I didn't deserve, you know, I think most of us knew that we're not supposed to probably be here right now, but, you know, by the same token, did we really do something bad? Nah, I mean, we were witness to something historic, that's for sure.
You've had, you know, 3 years to kind of think about this, 3 years of your probation, 4
mm-hmm.
years since it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any regrets of what happened on January 6th?
You know, I kind of, not really. I mean, you know, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, you know. I mean, out of the way I am. And, you know, anybody that knows me knows that if something like that's going on, I'm probably going to, you know, I may not jump in the middle of it, but I'm definitely going to be on the outside looking in, you know. You know, I regret the whole thing happened that way, you know, more than anything. You know, I regret that my family had to deal with a lot of the stuff I had to deal with. You as far as what I did personally, no, not too much. I'm not. I felt at the time when it was going on, I was going to court and things. I was like, I'm ashamed and all this. But over the time that I've been on probation, that I'm really not. I'm more ashamed that my family, my mom, my brother, my kids, had to deal with some backlash of my kids, especially my kids, with their dad being that guy. And I regret that. I should have thought of that. I didn't even have that thought in my head at the time. But I do regret that for them, that my name became mired in this thing, and they had to deal with the backlash. So that is a regret.
Knowing all of that, would you have done anything differently?
I don't think so. I doubt it. Me being me, no. I don't know. I guess looking back on it, would I take the probation? No. I probably, if I knew I was gonna, hey, if I go in there and take these pictures, I'm running a chance of, being on probation for 3 years. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done it. But not having known that, yeah, I would have done the same things. Not that I'm proud of it. I'm not gonna say I'm proud that I stood up and did this. But am I ashamed? No. I can't tell you that I am. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your honesty with that.
Sure.
With all the news with the pardons, do you think that was the right thing for President Trump to do?
I do. I'm not going to agree with people beating on cops or getting beat up by cops. However that worked out, just because of who I am, that's another part of who I am. I'm not going to, not in my moral, my moral ladder to do that. But there were a lot of people that got charged and convicted and stayed in jail. A lot of things happened there that weren't right. They weren't necessarily, constitutional. Some of those people were held for a long time with no contact with anybody, and did the same thing, or maybe a little more, but basically the same as what I did. That's why, like I say, I feel like mine was unique and that I didn't have to fly out there. That was a big worry. When I went to court here, right after they arrested me, I was, they had told me, said, no, you're not gonna, you're gonna end up staying here. You're not gonna have to fly to D.C. to do this. And I was worried to that, up to the point where the judge said, okay, well, you're good to go on your own recognizance for the time being. When I was arraigned, I guess they called that. And I felt lucky that I'm not flying out there, because I felt like, well, you fly me out there, I'm with those guys. I'm never getting out of that place. And I think it was the right thing to do. I don't know. As far as the rest, because the question's always going to be, what about the guys that did the violent stuff in this? I don't know. That's something that's going to take me a lot of time to think about. I'm not. I think what President Trump did, he did because he wanted to get it done quick. He wanted to get it done quick, and here's he promised he's going to do this. Here's the form. Here you go, guys. So thank you, President Trump. I appreciate it, and I'm sure we all, all of them do. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I can't say that.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. As someone, like we were talking, you were not charged with any violent felony or any violent crime, like we just said. You were there. You were taking pictures, but you didn't assault any police officers.
Right.
Do you think it's right or it's fair that the people who did do those things, they've also now been pardoned, even though you kind of went through the same process that they did?
I don't know. All I could say is somebody may have more information than I do, or than we all do, and decided that what these guys did and the way they did it was okay, or maybe not necessarily okay, but it was forgivable. This is a forgivable offense, and then President Trump forgave it. I'm going to side with President Trump. Like I say, when all this started, I wasn't necessarily Trump. Right, over the past 4 years, I've become one, and I'll trust in what he does. I've also become a Christian, and I'm no angel. I'm learning that there's a difference between, and so, I think God's got a plan with that, and He's going to use President Trump. He's going to use all of us to do His will. So, the decisions He makes, are I'm going to trust in those. I'm going to say that, you know, he's doing the right thing, you know, or he's done the right thing by doing this.
How would you say things have changed for you in the last 4 years since this all happened?
God, not too much other than the notoriety, which wasn't much. I mean, I was on the news for a few seconds, you know, back in the day. Honestly, a lot of the reaction I got from people that did know were positive. It was odd. I didn't run into anybody, person that had any kind of problems. I tried to shut it out. It's not something I announced. I didn't go in and go, hey guys, I'm CJ Walden. I'm Carrie John Walden. I'm the, you know, I tried to keep it, you know, away. Usually it would show up on things like, oh, if I apply for a job, it's for a background check, you know, and of course I have to, you know, be honest with them. And it was odd how many people were like, oh, you're that guy. How awesome. Like, huh, weird. You know, I didn't expect some of those reactions out of people. Like I say, my family, you know, my kids particularly, I really felt like they paid the price. And they were embarrassed by their dad. You know, they both lived in Arizona. And my son died. I don't know if I told you that. He died. And he actually changed his name, you know, legally changed his name, you know, because he was so embarrassed and mad at me about that. And which is strange because he was a relatively conservative guy himself. But, you know, just the act itself. And you know, they were pretty upset. And I think they've probably taken some backlash from some people. My daughter still doesn't talk to me. She, you know, she's mad. You know, she's mad. She will hopefully eventually, but... you know, those are the worst things that's happened in the last few years as far as that goes. You know, that and just being restricted to the Kansas City area. It's like, man, you know, it'd be nice to stretch my legs a little bit. But, you know, like I say, the probation, he would pop in at least once a month. You know, so that was kind of strange. And, you know, hey, take a breathalyzer. I don't drink, you know. Yeah, I got to go take a urinalysis, so I don't do any of that, you know. So it was just going through the motions and, you know, I think just being, even though it wasn't bad, they were good to me. You know, they were good to me. But just having those, you know, those things on my back, just it's nice to, okay, all right, I can breathe now.
Yeah. Now that you've been pardoned, what are you gonna do?
I'm not gonna go do that. So, you know, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna travel. I'm gonna go to my brother's. I'm gonna get outside of Kansas City. Yeah, I'm going to do the same things I always do. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to come home. I'm going to eat. I'm going to sleep. I would like to go to D.C. now that I can. You know, I would like to go back and actually do the things I want to do back there. I go to the Smithsonian's and the wall and all the memorials and do the things that I didn't have time to do the last 2 times I've been. I would like to do that.
What do you think it'll be like seeing the Capitol 4 or 5 years later?
I think it'll be nice, you know? It was nice then. I mean, when I went in the window, there was another room. So I went in the window, there was a big room, and there was another closed off room. You know, I had a window that wasn't broken out, and I kind of stood in front of it. I was like, you know, nobody break. So I'm looking in this room, all this old, I don't know what room it was. It was all this old, beautiful wood, dark wood furniture, and it was, you know, just, yeah, I would like to go, and yeah, I'd like to go back and visit. You know, everybody else, you know, would probably look at that bad. I don't have, you know, to me, that's not necessarily a bad memory. It is a historic thing. I mean, all in all, the riot was it was bad. It was bad. But me personally, no, I don't. It's not a bad memory for me, you know, not at all.
Do you think moving forward, other January 6th defendants who have now also been pardoned, they kind of have the same outlook as you do? From the folks that, you know, you had come across with when you were there?
Probably. I would say. I would like to meet some of them. I know there's some in town. I don't know any of them. You know, it would be nice to be able to get together with some of those guys and say, hey, you know, how do you feel about things? What's your thoughts? You know, I'm probably one of the less, what do you call it? I'm trying to find the word. Extreme. I want to use that word because it's so much connected to that word now. You know, back in the day, politically, you would have called me a moderate. You know, you wouldn't have called me a Republican or a Democrat. I was straight in the middle of that thing. You know, of course, we can't do that anymore. You know, you have to be one or the other. So, and it is what it is. So, yeah, I would be interested to find out. But I would think a lot of them would feel that the way I do about things.
Right. I think those were all my questions. I'm just curious. With some of the news that has come out about President Trump. President Trump has called a lot of the January 6th defendants hostages rather than inmates or convicts. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perspective. It's one perspective. I think that I think you could say that. You know, I mean, those guys. A lot of them were held, and they weren't allowed any contact with anybody. They didn't go to court. They were just held in jail. Just like we're not letting you out of jail. Yeah, I can see where that perception exists. And I don't know that I would call it a misnomer. I mean, you know, I would say that's probably one definition you could use: inmates, hostages. You know, whatever term you want to use, it's all the same thing. They're being held. They're being held captive. You know, you call them captive. They're captive. You know, so no, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. No, I think that's a correct term.
And I'm also curious. You mentioned this a couple times. You know, before January 6th, you said you didn't really support Trump. You didn't really like him. You're a Trumper now.
Absolutely,
you're a Trump
100%,
fan now.
100%.
In 2020, before you went to DC for January 6th, did you support Donald Trump?
When I went there, yeah, I voted for him that time. You know, I think at that time the thing I didn't like about President Trump was the same thing everybody else did. The tweets, and which I never had Twitter, but the talking stuff, you know. A lot of people loved it, and I get it. A lot of people loved that he, you know, and I get it because my stepdad was one of them. He said he liked Trump because Trump was not politically correct. He is not a politician. This guy, he's not a politician, and I think that to a lot of the population here, that's refreshing. Like, hey, this guy's not trying to buy or schmooze his way into our vote. He's, you know, here's what I'm going to do, and you know, F you if you don't like it, you know, basically. So at the time, yeah, I voted for him because I liked the way the country was being run. I liked the way he did things. As far as being a huge Trumper, even now, I'm not huge. You know, when it comes to any politician, you know, we're taxpayers. You know, we should have our eye on all of them, regardless of what party they're in or any of that. We should all have our eyes on all of them and what they're saying and what they're doing. You know, regardless of political or, well, I believe this, I believe that. Well, a lot of them we don't know because you're being paid. You're being paid by somebody to say something. I mean, people are not giving millions of dollars to you just for fun, just for, hey, I really like you. Here's $1 million. Do with what you please. I don't buy it. You know, so I think it would behoove every one of us to keep our eyes on politicians from top to bottom. You know, watch what they're doing and how they're doing it. You know, so now, yeah, I'm a Trumper, but I got my eye on him too. Like they had their eyes on me, I've got my eyes on that too.
Well, I think, CJ, those were my questions. Jake, did I miss anything?
I gotta ask this, look at Miss Ledonne, blame me, but look at her. And this is, I appreciate you talking to
Am I supposed to be looking at her or you?
Yeah, so.
I appreciate it, I just want to make clear, I appreciate you talking to us, I realize this is a personal thing.
Sure.
But since you brought it up, you became a Christian.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The legal story essentially about this story is over.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe from that perspective, do you think the president has any moral responsibility for what happened on January 6th?
God, I don't know. That's a tough question, you know? I mean, really, that's on him whether he does or not. And I'm sure he does. You know, I'm sure that, you know, on a personal level, he probably thinks every night, you know, what could I do, you know? There's so many stories about, you know, what he said and what he did. And I don't know. I didn't even listen to him. I wasn't there when he was speaking. You know, there's one some people have shown video. We're going to peacefully march over there and this. And then other ones are like, we're going to fight like hell. And it's like, what's the reality? I can't tell you. I wasn't there when he was doing that. I'm sure he does feel a moral responsibility, you know, which is probably one reason the pardons came. He probably feels morally responsible, you know. I wouldn't call him responsible. I mean, the crowd was fired up to begin with. You know, for days and weeks before this thing went down, you could go on Facebook or anywhere and see all the rhetoric. You know, you could see them. There's a storm coming. I remember seeing that one thinking, what storm? there's a storm coming. That's not what they were talking about. I was thinking, is the weather going to be bad? I mean, it's the storm. Oh no, it's a storm move. People really wanting to, do this. So I think a lot of that was pre-built before that ever happened. So I don't feel like it was I don't feel like it was his fault. I'm sure he does personally. I'm sure he does. None of us are perfect. We don't, we're all like the Christian thing is, we're all born sinners, and we are. We're terrible beings. Every one of us is, so I'm sure he does feel some kind of moral responsibility toward it. But it's not for me not for me or anybody else to judge him on that. That's between him and God.
Jake, are any other questions?
You kind of already answered this. I just want to maybe briefly clarify. A friend of mine who was a Trumper when this happened was about to get on one of those buses and didn't because he just had a premonition that something was going on.
Wow.
Did you have something similar, but did you have a different reaction?
Yeah, I had, in my mind, I kind of thought that something like what went down, was going to go on. But I was totally like, if that happens, I want to see it. Me being me, if I would have had a premonition that, hey, you're going to get in trouble, you're going to go to court and possibly go to jail, I probably wouldn't have went. But I really didn't think any of that was going to happen. I wouldn't say I had a premonition. It's just like I say, everything that built up to that point pointed toward something stupid's going to happen. Whether it's going to be, I think it was. Now, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to be the crowd that did. Everybody kind of thought this was going to be another one of the BLM Antifa, clashes that that were happening, but there was going to be more of the Trumper side, just as a quantity of people. But I didn't think that what happened was going to happen the way it did. But either way, I wouldn't call it a premonition, but there was an idea that something was going to go down, and I really didn't want to miss it.